Thanks, Javon. This evening we start off in Trinidad and Tobago. Officers attached to the Point 14 police station are investigating after an 18-year-old teenager was reportedly beaten, kidnapped and buried in a dirt hole up to his neck. Thankfully, the victim was eventually released. The victim told police that he was walking along the Cap de la Ville main road in Point 14 at about 10 p.m. Tuesday when he was approached by two men in dark clothing, one of whom was armed. The 18-year-old, on seeing the armed man, attempted to flee the scene, but the suspects gave chase. They were able to detain the 18-year-old a short distance away, and they proceeded to beat him about his body, inquiring about the location of 20 pounds of marijuana. The assailants then tied up the suspect and threw him in a white Nissan Tiida. The victim was then taken against his will to an isolated area in Gun Hill, where the suspects proceeded to dig a hole. They then placed the victim in the hole up to his neck. They then placed a metal object around his neck and proceeded to beat him further. After some time, the teenager was dug out and dropped off near a relative's home. The suspects then drove off. The police and paramedics were notified, and the injured man was taken for medical treatment. Investigations are still ongoing. Still in Trinidad, a late-night rendezvous with a woman in a car parked roadside in Karuni ended in the death of the driver. Keenan Lutchman was shot and killed by a man who came to steal the vehicle. Police said Lutchman of Facility Chaguanas was sitting in the car with 32-year-old woman at Laundry Road. At around 10 p.m., a masked gunman walked up to the Nissan AD wagon and ordered the couple to get out. Lutchman was told to hand over the keys as he moved to obey. He was shot in the upper body. The gunman left in the station wagon. The woman then went looking for help and paramedics were called. And finally, news coming out of Venezuela. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said yesterday that he was committed to talks with the opposition to resolve a political crisis, hours after opposition leader Juan Guaido said there would never be a good time to negotiate with a dictatorship. Guaido and Maduro have both sent representatives to Oslo in May for discussions that Norway's government had encouraged, but they were unable to reach any agreement. On Saturday, people familiar with the negotiations said that talks would restart this week, but Guaido yesterday said that there has been no official statement that we would attend a new round of dialogue. Few details have been released about the talks in Oslo between representatives of Maduro and Guaido, who invoked Venezuela's constitution to assume a rival presidency in January, denouncing Maduro's 2018 re-election as illegitimate. Guaido's comments came as the opposition expressed outrage after the death last week of Venezuelan Navy Captain Rafael Acosta in military custody. The captain's wives and rights group accused Maduro's government of torturing Acosta and refusing to clarify the circumstances of his death. Venezuela's chief prosecutor on Monday charged two intelligence officials with homicide in connection with Acosta's death without explaining how he was killed. In an address on state television Tuesday evening, Maduro made no reference to Acosta's death, but said that his government was committed to the Norway dialogue and that the talks aim to create a permanent table for dialogue and solutions. And that has brought us to the end of the regional news this evening. Back to you, Javon.